Mr. Speaker, will you please call the House to order?
The bill is passed.
We'd like to get a budget that represents the interests of the people who are standing here with me now.
To be part of the struggle to achieve a better society for all.
And that's why today I'm very pleased to cast my vote in the affirmative. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Assembly Update. I'm Liz Koenig. The governor announced recently a controversial license plate replacement program which would cost drivers in New York State up to $45. And our guest today has a response to that. In response to that, he has introduced legislation which would ban this practice in New York State. And joining me to discuss this topic is Assemblyman Angelo Santabarbara, who represents the 111th Assembly District, Albany, Schenectady, and Montgomery counties. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks for having me.
Kind of shocked me a little bit. I mean, there was a whole little contest to go along with it and everything to kind of make it a little cute. But really, I mean, $45 is the maximum, obviously, you'd be paying. But it seems like an awful lot of money for somebody who doesn't, for something you don't really need.
Well, especially, and I took some time to look at the list of DMV fees already, and it's a long list of fees, and every time you go in there, it seems like we're paying hundreds of dollars, and these are people just trying to get to work in the morning, trying to bring their kids to school. And now, the state is essentially saying, with this program that we're going to replace your plates even if they don't need replacing. That's the part that is just wrong about this whole idea behind this. And what it amounts to is just more of our hard-earned money going to the state. And it seems like the state just keeps coming up with new ways to replace these plates over and over again. And people that I've talked to feel like we've replaced them an awful lot.
Now, you've sponsored legislation, obviously, which would ban this practice of requiring folks to get new plates all the time. Tell us about that.
And the legislation I've introduced in response to this is basically says that the state cannot force you to replace your plates if they're in good condition. Now look, there's plates that are damaged, plates that are lost, and people are replacing those plates anyway. Once they're damaged or lost, people are going in, so they're already paying fees to, whenever that happens. The problem with this now is you're forcing drivers to do it. So your plate may be in good condition. They're saying you got to bring it in just because it's 10 years old. If you've taken care of the plates and there's nothing wrong with them, why should you not be able to keep them? Why should you get hit with another fee? And then, as you mentioned, you're also to keep your old plate number, another $20 fee. That starts to add up. That really does. And essentially, what this amounts to, and we're saying fees, it's a tax on working class people. People just, again, trying to get to work in the morning. They're trying to get their groceries, trying to get their kids to school, to sports. This is, it's going to hit them the hardest. And these fees, as I said, they add up. There's enough fees at DMV. We pay enough. We don't need any new fees for license plates, especially with this program that says, you got to replace your plates no matter what the condition. And the design project, you mentioned the design project. That's if the state wants to go ahead and design new plates, the bill says you can do that. Go ahead. You can replace the plates, but you can't charge the drivers. You can't make them replace these plates. The question, really what it comes down to, we paid for these plates once. Why should we have to pay for them again?
Right. Now, you're hearing from your constituents, obviously.
Yeah,
I can imagine. Yeah. What do they have to say about
Well, I got a lot of sponsorship on the bill so far, so I'm hoping that this bill will pass long before the April 1st deadline. But I've also heard from constituents. I've heard from a range of things on constituents. Constituents are upset, just as what I said, for the reasons I described. They don't want to have to replace their plates if they don't have to. They don't want to get hit with this fee. And they see this as just a way for the state to just charge people, take more of our hard-earned money and send it to the state. When you look at other states, that's the other part. People, I've looked at other states, what they're doing with license plates. There's some states that, they issue a plate one time, and then they have either little inspection stickers, or you never really have to replace that plate again. And this is a practice that's been going on. Why can't we do that here? It seems like in recent times, we've replaced plates an awful lot, whether it's because of peeling issues, not manufactured correctly. But if you look at the list of plates, New York's had an awful lot of plates, and honestly, the new plate, and I know the graphic is up, you know, the new plate looks kind of like some of the older plates, you know, so it's kind of being recycled now. So, you know, why are we doing this? Why do we keep changing these plates? And going back to what you said earlier about the keeping your plate number too, you know, constituents have come to me and said, hey, you know, I got my plate number registered in a number of different places, for parking, for access to my building, my business, whatever the case may be. So there are reasons to keep your current plate number. It's not just not something that people, you know, you just say, all right, well, I'm not going to pay the $20. I'm going to lose my plate number. They'll issue me a new plate number. You know, sometimes it's not so simple, especially when you're talking about businesses and people that have to have parking areas that are, you know, for work or whatever the case may be. So, you know, some people are going to be forced to pay that too, just because, you know, they already have that plate number registered. You know, it could be at school, it could be anywhere. It could be a number of different reasons. So that fee is very real. So, you know, as you said, we're not just talking about $25. We're actually talking about $45. Again, in addition to, you know, I got the list right here, the long list of DMV fees every time you go in there. You know, and then we start looking at throughway tolls. You start looking at registration fees. You know, where does it stop? Where does it stop? So this bill says that you can't charge people to replace their plates if they're in good condition. It also has a built-in protection that says if they do this down the road, because this has happened before. So if they do this down the road, they can't force you to change your plates. They can't force you to turn your plates in if they're in good condition. They can't charge you to keep your number, a number that was issued to you randomly. I don't know how they issue these numbers, but you got that number once. You know, why should you have to pay now to keep it? It was issued to you once. I think you have some sort of a right to keep it without being charged. The other part of this that people took issue with, and I have a couple of emails here, is that the designs themselves. You know, the designs themselves mostly have downstate landscapes. So the upstate, my upstate constituents are saying, you know what? I think there's one plate that actually has a waterfall on it. So somebody pointed that out. But the rest of the plates, you know, so more than 90% of your choices, you know, whatever the, you know, the other side also has a New York City landscape. It is a waterfall, but more than 90%, a high percentage of the choices, you know, 4 out of the 5 plates have no upstate representation. One may have some kind of upstate representation, but people are saying, hey, why didn't we have some say, you know, in some upstate landscapes? You know, somebody mentioned the state bird. Somebody mentioned the 1980 Olympics, the high peaks. You know, so some constituents have taken issue with the plate designs themselves. But beyond that, look, if the governor wants to, if this is the governor's design project, so be it. You know, but why should we have to pay for it? You know, if this is so important, you know, let him pay for it. You know, it shouldn't come down to the taxpayers to pay for this design project. And most constituents that I talk to, pretty much everybody I talk to, they don't want a fancy new design. They're perfectly happy with the plates they have. They don't want some fancy new design, and they certainly don't want to have to pay for it.
Absolutely. Now, you've launched an online petition where people can support your legislation
yes.
and voice their opposition to the program.
Yes, I've launched an online petition where people can, because that's one of the things where people want to voice their opinion on this issue. People are upset about this. I talked to my parents, you know, when this first came out. They were very upset about this. You know, they have 2 cars, they're retired, you know, they're trying to make ends meet, they're trying to get by, and now to say you have to turn your plates in, you know, they want to have a voice. I have a spot on my website where people can voice their opinions, sign up, support the legislation, voice their opposition to these new fees, and support the legislation. Hopefully we you know, what I've seen so far, I can tell you what I've seen so far. It's not just the Capital Region. It's not just my constituents. We are seeing people from across the entire state respond to this petition. People calling my office and saying how exactly what we've been talking about, Liz, how this is just not fair. It's not right, and all it is a new way for the state to charge fees, which are essentially taxes, again, on working class people. So the online petition, I know we flashed it up there. I encourage people watching to voice your opinion, have your opinion heard, support this legislation. This is something we should take up as a priority. Number 1, get it done before that April 1st deadline ever gets here, to stop this fee, again, and also put in protection so this can never happen again.
Now, I guess the reasoning has something to do with automatic tolling, or?
Yeah, that was one of the reasons that was brought up, is that you know, some of the plates, you know, the claim is made that the technology doesn't work with the plates, but that's just something that, you know, we've seen other states that have older plates. You know, I've gone through many states, you know, traveling through states with my vehicle, and my plate seems to work fine with all the readers that I've gone through. Why wouldn't it work here? You know, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't add up. I think that, you know, that's just to me, that sounds like an excuse to push this program forward. I don't think it's a good reason. I think that the technology can work with the plates that we have. Now, granted, look, not long ago we had plates that were manufactured defective, that are appealing, and I know those plates are being replaced. You know, so some people already have new plates, so they don't want to get new plates. But you know, if you look at what's happening in other states, they can manufacture these plates and they can manage to keep them on the road for a very long time. The question is, why do we keep replacing? That's what constituents are saying. And you flash the designs up there. It seems like we're replacing plates an awful lot. So it needs to come to an end. If the state wants to do this, you know, they have to do it with they have to work with what they got. You know, they can't go back to the taxpayers and say, hey, we want you to pay for new plates. We paid for the plates once. We don't need to pay for them again. Again, we're just trying, there's people just trying to get to school. They're trying to get to work. They're trying to buy their groceries. They don't care what the plates look like. My parents don't care. I don't care. I haven't talked to one person that says, yes, I need a new plate design. I just can't live without one. And you know, who can and who wants to pay for it? You know, I haven't talked to anybody that says, yes, I think I want to pay this fee. It's unheard of. This is something that's you know, it's complete madness at this point. And this bill is needed. It's perhaps something that should have been passed a while ago when this came up the first time, so that we wouldn't be dealing with this right now. So I have several Senate sponsors. I have a number of co-sponsors that have signed on to the bill. So the bill is gaining momentum. I think that you know, people are, just like in my district, I'm hearing from my constituents. People are hearing from their constituents. They're upset about this. These fees amount to nothing more than taxes, unneeded for something that's not needed. So I think that you will find that this bill is going to gain a lot of momentum, a lot of support. If we happen to come back in special session, so be it. You know, we can pass this bill right now and do it before we ever get to January. But if we have to wait till January, as long as it happens before the April 1st deadline, that's my goal. I think the bill speaks to the voices of my constituents. It speaks to the voices of working class people everywhere across the state. As I said, I've heard from people as far away as Buffalo or Rochester, from all over the state, that are upset with this. And when I say they're upset, they're upset. Everything from the design contest, they're not happy with the designs. They're certainly not happy with the fees, but they're not happy with the whole idea that they're even trying to do this and force it on us.
And most families have more than one vehicle.
So
you know, I mean,
that's a good point. You know, my daughter
starts to add up.
My daughter Mariana, she's 15. You know, she's looking to drive. She's going to be looking to get her license. So you know, I'm going to be in that category at some point. You know, I'm going to be hit with these fees. You know, and again, it's something that's not needed. So I think the bill is a good bill, and I think it's received a lot of support. And I hope to see this passed long before the April 1st deadline ever gets here.
And if anybody wants more information about this or any other issue,
yes, they can visit my website, www.nyassembly.gov, under Assemblyman Angelo Santa Barbara. There you can sign up for my newsletter, where we can update you on this legislation and any other bills that I have. But there you'll also find the petition that we flashed up there, where people can sign up, voice your opinion, share it with family and friends. Everybody's concerned about this. Add their voice. That's how we can get this bill passed.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We've been speaking with Assemblyman Angelo Santa Barbara, who represents the 111th Assembly District, Albany, Schenectady, and Montgomery counties. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.